You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Those words, written by Marcus Aurelius almost 2,000 years ago, weren't just philosophical musings. They were battle-tested wisdom from a Roman emperor who ruled an empire while facing war, plague, and personal tragedy. And here's what's extraordinary. That same insight holds the key to navigating the chaos of our modern world. Think about it. How much of your day is spent reacting to things outside your control? The endless notifications, the unexpected setbacks, the gnawing anxiety about tomorrow. It feels like we're constantly at the mercy of circumstances, doesn't it? But what if you could flip that script, not by changing the world around you, but by mastering the world within you? That's the promise of Stoicism, not some dusty ancient philosophy, but a living, breathing toolkit for fearlessness and focus. This isn't about suppressing emotions or grinding through life with a stiff upper lip. Real Stoicism is about clarity. It's about recognizing the difference between what you can change and what you must accept, and then directing your energy with precision. Imagine facing challenges not with panic, but with unwavering presence. Picture making decisions not from fear, but from a deep, unshakable resilience. That's what it means to truly rule your world. And here's the best part. These aren't abstract ideas. They're practical techniques honed over centuries by leaders, warriors, and thinkers who faced adversity far greater than our daily stresses and emerged stronger. So how do we tap into that same power? It starts with three core principles: control, resilience, and presence. Control doesn't mean micromanaging life. It means knowing where your agency truly lies. Resilience isn't about never falling, it's about how quickly you rise. And presence, that's the art of focusing so completely on the moment that distractions lose their grip. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore exactly how to apply these principles not just in theory, but in your work, your relationships, even your quietest moments of doubt. Because the goal isn't to become unfeeling, it's to become unstoppable. Ready? Let's begin. The first step to ruling your world lies in understanding one fundamental truth: the dichotomy of control. Picture an archer drawing back their bow. They can control their stance, their aim, the strength of their pull, but once the arrow leaves the string, the wind, the target's movement, even luck take over. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus used this exact metaphor 2,000 years ago to teach a lesson we still need today. Focus on your effort, not the outcome. Because here's the reality: you can't control your boss's mood, traffic jams, or whether someone likes your social media post. But you can control how you prepare for that meeting when you leave the house, and whether you let a stranger's opinion ruin your day. This principle isn't about giving up, it's about redirecting your energy where it actually matters. Think about workplace stress. You can't control layoffs or a toxic colleague, but you can control how you respond, upgrading your skills, setting boundaries, or choosing not to internalize negativity. Or consider social media. You can't control how many likes your photo gets, but you can control whether you measure your worth by it. The moment you separate what's yours to handle from what isn't, you reclaim an incredible amount of mental real estate. Here's a challenge: grab a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, list the things that weigh on you: deadlines, relationships, health concerns. Now cross out everything that isn't directly within your power to change. That job interview result out of your hands, the comment your coworker made. Not yours to fix. What's left is your true battlefield, your preparation, your reactions, your mindset. This exercise isn't just theoretical, it's a liberation. Every time you catch yourself agonizing over the uncontrollable, you're handing your power away. But when you focus on your aim, like that stoic archer, you'll find a quiet confidence, regardless of where the arrow lands. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful yet misunderstood tools in the Stoic toolkit, Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. At first glance, this might sound pessimistic. Why would anyone dwell on what could go wrong? But here's the twist. This practice isn't about feeding fear, it's about disarming it. Seneca put it bluntly. He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming in advance. Think of it as mental fireproofing. By rehearsing challenges before they happen, you strip them of their ability to shock or paralyze you. Modern life trains us to do the opposite. We scroll, we distract, we numb ourselves with busyness, anything to avoid sitting with discomfort. But avoidance comes with a hidden cost. When adversity inevitably hits, it feels like a sucker punch. The Stoic alternative: meet it head-on in your mind first. Picture a job loss, a difficult conversation, even a missed flight. Sit with the discomfort of that scenario, not to wallow, but to ask yourself, what would I do next? This isn't catastrophizing, it's problem solving with courage. You're not predicting the future, you're preparing for it. Here's how to put this into action today. Take a situation that's been weighing on you, maybe a presentation at work or a tough family discussion. Close your eyes and visualize the worst-case scenario. Your mind goes blank during the presentation. The conversation turns into an argument. Now, breathe through that discomfort, then ask, is this unbearable? Or is it something I could navigate? You'll often find that the fear of the thing is far worse than the thing itself. And when you've already walked through the fire in your mind, the real challenge loses its fangs. This practice has a remarkable side effect: gratitude. By regularly confronting how much could go wrong, you start noticing how much is already right. The Romans called this the double blow, preparing for hardship while deepening appreciation for the present. Try it tonight. Before sleep, spend 2 minutes imagining life without something you take for granted: your health, your home, your closest relationship. Then open your eyes, feel that surge of clarity, that stoic resilience being forged, not through blind positivity, but through clear-eyed readiness. Every challenge you premeditate becomes less of a threat and more of a test, one you've already practiced for. There's a phrase that cuts straight to the heart of stoic resilience: Amor Fati, the love of fate. It's a concept so powerful that Friedrich Nietzsche, centuries after the Stoics, called it his formula for greatness. But don't let the Latin fool you. This isn't about passive resignation or gritting your teeth through hardship. Loving fate means looking at every obstacle, every setback, even every failure, and saying, this too is part of my story, and I choose to find the gift in it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that for a moment. The very things we resist, the missed opportunities, the unexpected detours, are often the raw materials for our growth. Consider the modern equivalent: losing a job. On the surface, it's a crisis: financial strain, bruised ego, uncertainty. But history is full of people who used that exact moment to pivot toward something greater. Maybe it's the push to finally start that business, or the chance to retrain for a more fulfilling career. The Stoics would argue that the job loss itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's your interpretation that gives it power. Reframe it as an opportunity, and suddenly you're not a victim of circumstance, you're the author of your next chapter. This mindset shift isn't just philosophical, it's neurological. When you consciously choose to see challenges as fuel rather than failure, you rewire your brain's response to stress. Instead of triggering panic, setbacks start triggering problem solving. That's why Marcus Aurelius made a daily practice of writing down his struggles, not to complain, but to mine them for lessons. Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. He wrote, then added the crucial Stoic twist, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil. In other words, even the people who seem to stand in your way are unwitting teachers, showing you where patience, boundaries, or compassion are needed. So here's your challenge. Pick one recent setback, a rejection, a mistake, a plan that fell through. Now ask, how could this actually serve me? Did that failed project reveal a skill you need to develop? Did that argument highlight a boundary you've been neglecting? Even pain has a purpose. It's often the universe's way of pointing us toward what needs attention. The Stoics didn't just endure fate, they embraced it, trusting that every twist was part of a larger curriculum. And when you start viewing life that way, resilience stops being something you muster. It becomes second nature. Because the person who loves their fate, no matter how it unfolds, holds an unshakable power, the power to transform every obstacle into an advantage. Marcus Aurelius had a secret weapon against life's chaos, one he practiced every morning before stepping into the whirlwind of ruling Rome. He called it the view from above, a mental exercise so simple yet so profound that it can transform how you see everything from traffic jams to existential dread. Here's how it works. Close your eyes and imagine rising above your current situation higher, higher, until you're looking down at your city like a map, then your country, then the entire planet hanging in space. From that vantage point, how insignificant do your worries seem? The argument with your partner, the unfinished to-do list, the rude comment online, all shrink to specks against the vastness of time and space. That's not nihilism, it's liberation. The emperor used this technique to stay grounded while managing wars, plagues, and betrayals. Picture him standing on his palace balcony, gazing at the Tiber River, mentally zooming out until Rome's chaos became just one flickering light in history's long march. He'd remind himself, in the life of a man, his time is a pinpoint, his existence a fleeting thing. Now fast forward to today. Your empire might be a crammed calendar, a noisy news cycle, or the pressure to keep up, but the principle remains. That email that felt like an emergency, the meeting that left you seething, from 10,000 feet, they're barely blips. Try this with something that's been bothering you lately. Stuck in traffic, imagine the cars as tiny ants crawling on a ribbon of road. How quickly does your frustration fade when you see the bigger picture? Worried about a mistake at work? Picture yourself a year from now. Will it even matter? This isn't about dismissing your feelings, it's about giving them context. The Stoics knew that most of what consumes our mental energy today will be forgotten tomorrow by others and eventually even by ourselves. What makes this practice so powerful is its dual effect. It humbles our egos while expanding our perspective. That co-worker who took credit for your idea. From the cosmic view, their pettiness says more about their fears than your worth. The project that didn't go viral, in the grand scheme, impact isn't measured in likes but in quiet consistency. Ancient Rome's emperors are dust, their triumphs and scandals reduced to paragraphs in history books. Yet here we are, still learning from their wisdom. That's the ultimate reminder. Your legacy won't be perfect days, but the principles you lived by when days were hard. So tonight, step outside, look up at the stars. Let the vastness remind you you're not drowning in chaos. You're learning to navigate it with the calm clarity of someone who sees the bigger picture. Every evening, Seneca, one of history's greatest Stoic thinkers, would sit with a simple question: how did I live today? Not what did I achieve or how much did I earn, but how, with what kind of character, attention, and intention. He called this practice Nocturnal Recollection, and it wasn't some lofty philosophical exercise. It was a ruthless yet compassionate audit of the day's choices, a way to close the gap between who he aspired to be and who he'd actually been. Fast forward 2,000 years, and our nightly ritual looks starkly different, mindlessly scrolling through screens, numbing the day's tensions with dopamine hits, only to wake up the next morning feeling emptier than when we started. But what if those last quiet minutes before sleep became something more? Not another chore, but a sacred space to reclaim clarity and agency. Stoic journaling isn't about dumping thoughts onto paper. It's about deliberate excavation. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, "The unexamined life isn't worth living, but the unlived life isn't worth examining." In other words, reflection without action is just navel-gazing. The magic happens when you use journaling as a mirror to spot patterns, then a lever to change them. Start with 3 core prompts, each designed to cut through noise. First, what did I truly control today? Not the weather, not your boss's mood, but your responses, your patience in that frustrating meeting, your choice to walk away from gossip, your decision to pause before reacting. This question alone trains your brain to spot agency where you might have missed it. Next, where did I surrender my power? Maybe you obsessed over a comment you couldn't unhear, or refreshed your inbox waiting for validation. These aren't failures, they're data points. The Stoics believed every misstep is a lesson wrapped in sandpaper. And finally, the most transformative prompt: what's one thing I'll do differently tomorrow? Not a vague wish like "be happier," but a tactical adjustment. I'll set my phone aside during dinner, or I'll tackle the hardest task before checking email. This bridges reflection and action, turning insight into momentum. Now, let's confront the elephant in the room. Why journal when you could unwind with a show or social media? Because passive consumption keeps you in reaction mode, while journaling puts you back in the driver's seat. Scrolling numbs, writing clarifies. One fills your mind with other people's agendas, the other helps you rediscover your own. Think of it like this: if you spent all day in a noisy marketplace, wouldn't you crave a quiet room to hear yourself think? Your journal is that room. Here's your challenge. For the next 3 nights, trade just 5 minutes of screen time for pen and paper. Don't overcomplicate it. No fancy notebooks required. Start with those 3 prompts and let the words come raw. You might find that the act of writing slows your mind enough to spot what rushed right past you in the day's blur. Maybe you'll notice how often you blamed external things for internal moods, or how a small, intentional choice, like taking a deep breath before speaking, changed an entire interaction. And if you're tempted to skip a night, ask yourself, if not now, when? The Romans didn't journal because life was easy, they did it because life was hard. And in those pages, they found something we all crave: not control over every circumstance, but mastery over the one thing that truly shapes our lives: our attention. "Death smiles at us all," wrote Marcus Aurelius. "All we can do is smile back." That might sound morbid at first, but here's what the Stoics understood that most of us miss: contemplating mortality isn't about fear. It's about focus. They called this practice Memento Mori, remembering you must die, not to depress you, but to awaken you. Picture this: you're handed an hourglass at birth, grains of sand steadily falling. Most people spend their days staring at the pile above, assuming it's endless. The Stoics, they kept that hourglass in clear view, using its flow as fuel. Epictetus put it bluntly: you act like mortals in all you fear, and like immortals in all you desire. We delay dreams for someday, waste hours on trivial grievances, and sacrifice presence for productivity, all while pretending time isn't slipping through our fingers. Let's make this practical. Grab your phone right now and pull up your calendar. Scan the next 30 days. How many of those boxes are filled with things that truly matter? Not meetings that could have been emails, not obligatory gatherings that drain you, but moments that align with who you want to be. This is the Memento Mori challenge. If this month were your last, what would stay on that calendar? What would vanish? The answer reveals your real priorities, not the ones you post about, but the ones you live. Modern life has us procrastinating on life itself. We'll chase promotions while relationships wither, scroll through highlights while our own stories go unlived, and say, "I'll travel next year," until next year becomes never. The Stoics confronted this head-on by keeping skulls on their desks not as decoration, as a mirror, a reminder that later is the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves. Seneca wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Think about your average day. How much of it is spent on autopilot, reacting to notifications, or dwelling on yesterday's slights? Now multiply that by 30, that's a month you'll never reclaim. But here's the twist, this practice isn't about grim austerity, it's about fierce joy. When you stop postponing what matters, life becomes vivid. That conversation you've been meaning to have it, that creative project gnawing at you. Start it, even mundane moments, your morning coffee, a walk in the park take on new depth when you realize they're finite. Marcus Aurelius meditated on death daily, not to dwell in darkness, but to walk in sunlight with clear eyes. You could leave life right now, he wrote. Let that determine what you do and say. So tonight, try this. Before sleep, ask yourself 2 questions. First, did I live today or just exist? Second, if this were my last night, would I be at peace with how I spent it? No guilt, no drama, just clarity. You'll either fall asleep with gratitude for a day well lived, or wake up determined to change tomorrow's answer, because the hourglass isn't just emptying. It's reminding you every grain is a chance to choose. Epictetus offered a metaphor that cuts straight to the heart of modern stress. Imagine your mind as a fortress with a gatekeeper. Every thought, every emotion, every external event knocks at that gate, demanding entry. But here's the catch, you decide what gets in. Most of us live like careless gatekeepers, flinging the doors wide open to every passing irritation. A driver cuts you off and rage storms in unchecked. Someone leaves a snarky comment online and self-doubt waltzes through. The Stoics called this the Discipline of Assent, the practice of pausing before granting entry to thoughts that don't serve you. Think of the last time you reacted instantly to something trivial. Maybe it was a tone-deaf email that sent you spiraling, or a stranger's rude remark in traffic. In that moment, your gatekeeper was off duty, but what if you'd paused just 5 seconds? Those few heartbeats are where your power lives. They create just enough space to ask, does this deserve my energy? Road rage is a perfect example. That aggressive driver isn't targeting you personally. They're likely stressed, distracted, or unaware. By reacting instantly, you hand them control over your mood. But pause for 5 seconds and something shifts. You might notice your white-knuckled grip on the wheel, the heat in your face. Suddenly, you're not a prisoner of the moment, you're its observer. Online arguments expose the same dynamic. A stranger's opinion triggers you, fingers fly across the keyboard, and now you've poured hours into a debate that leaves everyone angrier. The Stoic remedy, train your gatekeeper. Before typing, ask, will this exchange improve either of our lives? If the answer's no, that's your cue to step away. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about choosing where to invest them. Here's how to put this into practice today. First, identify your triggers. What consistently breaches your gates? Maybe it's criticism or feeling ignored or certain phrases that instantly raise your defenses. Write them down. Awareness alone weakens their hold. Next, institute the 5-second rule. When a trigger strikes, count silently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Use that time to breathe deeply and ask, is reacting now helpful? You'll often find the impulse fades as quickly as it surged. The real magic happens when you realize you're not at the mercy of every thought that knocks. Some deserve a polite decline at the gate. Others, well, as Epictetus would say, not every visitor earns the right to sit at your table. The more you exercise this discipline, the quieter the knocking becomes. Because when your gatekeeper is vigilant, even chaos learns to wait outside. Cleans, the second leader of the Stoic school, had an unusual morning ritual. He'd walk the streets of Athens before dawn, matching his breath to his footsteps. Students would follow silently, learning what modern science now confirms. Breath isn't just oxygen exchange, it's the remote control for your nervous system. The ancients called this prosach, attention to the life force flowing through you. Today, neuroscientists call it interoception, your brain's ability to sense internal states. But here's what both traditions agree on. The rhythm of your breath dictates the rhythm of your mind. Consider how stress hijacks your body. Your chest tightens, your pulse races, your thoughts spiral. That's your sympathetic nervous system sounding alarms. Now imagine flipping a switch that quiets those alarms instantly. That's what Cleans discovered 2,000 years ago, and what you can replicate right now with the 4-4-4 technique. Inhale deeply for 4 seconds, feeling your diaphragm expand like a balloon. Hold that breath for 4, noticing how stillness creates space between stimulus and response. Exhale slowly for 4, releasing tension like steam from a valve. That 12-second reset isn't just calming, it's cognitive alchemy. Modern research reveals why this works. Controlled breathing increases heart rate variability, your body's ability to adapt to stress. Elite athletes use it to stay composed under pressure. Navy SEAL employ it to maintain clarity in chaos. But you don't need a battlefield to benefit. Try this before your next high-stakes meeting or difficult conversation. Instead of rehearsing arguments while your heart pounds, pause. Take 3 rounds of 4-4-4 breaths. Feel the shift. Your voice drops an octave. Your shoulders unlock. The person across from you subconsciously mirrors your calm. That's not magic, it's physiology. Cleans didn't have fMRI scans, but he knew this truth. Mastery begins in the space between breaths. Here's your challenge. For the next 3 days, pair breath control with transitions. When you sit down to work, before answering a stressful email, even while waiting in line. Notice how those pauses become anchors, turning reactive moments into deliberate choices. Because the Stoics didn't just breathe to survive, they breathed to rule their world. And now that power is yours. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who trained Epictetus, had a radical idea for building resilience: seek discomfort voluntarily. Not as punishment, but as training. While most Roman elites lounged in heated baths, he insisted on cold plunges. When others feasted endlessly, he practiced fasting. His logic was simple. By routinely stepping into small hardships, you inoculate yourself against life's inevitable larger ones. Fast forward to today, and we've built a world designed to eliminate discomfort at every turn. Smartphones deliver dopamine on demand. Thermostats maintain perfect temperatures. Apps promise to optimize even minor inconveniences out of existence. But here's the paradox: the more cushioned our lives become, the more fragile we feel when hardship inevitably breaks through. Consider cold showers, a modern twist on Musonius' practice. That initial shock of icy water triggers something primal. Your body screams to escape, but when you stay under the stream for just 30 seconds, something shifts. Your breath steadies, your mind clears. You realize discomfort won't kill you, it might even make you stronger. The same principle applies to skipping a meal intentionally, leaving your phone at home during a walk, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator. These aren't acts of self-denial, they're exercises in reclaiming autonomy. Every time you choose discomfort over convenience, you're rewiring your brain's relationship with adversity. The modern comfort trap is subtle. It's not just about physical ease, it's the mental habit of avoiding anything mildly unpleasant, scrolling social media instead of sitting with boredom, snacking mindlessly rather than feeling hunger, interrupting deep work to check emails because focus feels uncomfortable. Musonius warned that perpetual comfort weakens the soul like never exercising weakens muscles. But he also offered a solution: progressive challenges. You wouldn't run a marathon without training, so why expect resilience in crisis if you never practice it in calm? Here's your micro-challenge. Pick one comfort crutch to drop for the next 24 hours. Maybe it's turning off notifications after 6 p.m., drinking water instead of that third coffee, or sitting silently for 5 minutes without filling the space with podcasts or music. Notice the impulses that arise, the itch to reach for your phone, the craving for distraction, the voice insisting this is pointless. That's your comfort addiction talking. And each time you resist it, you're doing psychological strength training. The Stoics weren't masochists, they were strategists. They knew that life would test everyone eventually through loss, failure, or pain, and those who'd voluntarily faced smaller tests would navigate bigger ones with steadier hands. So ask yourself, what's one comfort you've been leaning on too heavily? Not to judge it, but to recognize its hold. Because true freedom isn't about having every convenience, it's about knowing you can thrive without them. Marcus Aurelius left us a mental scalpel for cutting through life's drama, his concept of objective judgment. Picture this: you receive a harsh work critique that leaves you reeling. Your heart races, your face flushes, and within seconds you've constructed an entire narrative. Your boss doubts your abilities, your colleagues are whispering, your career is crumbling. But here's what the Stoic emperor would say: strip the story, peel back the layers of interpretation until only the bare facts remain. Someone pointed out flaws in your report. That's it, not a verdict on your worth, not a conspiracy, just words on a page or spoken aloud. This is the essence of objective judgment, seeing events as they are, not as our fears or ego spin them. Let's make this tangible. Think of a recent annoyance, maybe a friend cancelled plans last minute, or your internet cut out during an important call. Notice how quickly your mind races to assign meaning. They don't value our friendship. The universe is sabotaging me. Now pause, strip it down. What actually happened? A text arrived with a schedule conflict. A signal dropped, full stop. The rest, optional suffering. This isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about recognizing when we're adding fuel to the fire with our interpretations. Here's why this matters in the real world. Imagine two employees receiving identical feedback. Your presentation lacked clear data visualization. One spirals into insecurity. I'm terrible at this job. The other sees raw data. Next time, I'll add more charts. Same event, vastly different outcomes. The Stoics called this the Discipline of Assent, the moment between stimulus and response where we choose how to frame what happens. Every irritation, every setback comes wrapped in layers of assumptions. Objective judgment is the act of unwrapping it. Try this today. Pick one frustration: a delayed train, a snippy comment, a missed deadline. Write down the facts alone, then list the stories you've attached. That coworker who interrupted you. Fact, they spoke over you in a meeting. Story, they disrespect you. The difference between these two is where your power lies, because while you can't control interruptions, you can control whether they rent space in your mind. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, reminding himself, take away your opinion about what bothers you and you stand firm, not by numbing yourself but by distinguishing the event from the echo. The beauty of this practice is its versatility. Use it on social media. Someone's brusque reply isn't about you, it's pixels on a screen. Apply it to traffic. That honking horn isn't personal, it's sound waves in air. Like wiping fog from glasses, objective judgment brings the world into sharper focus. And in that clarity, you'll find something unexpected. Most of what upsets us isn't what happened, but what we decided it meant. So tonight, when some small storm brews in your mind, ask, am I reacting to the lightning or the thunder I've invented? The answer might just quiet the storm. Marcus Aurelius wrote of an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind where nothing unworthy could enter without your permission. Picture it, towering walls built not of stone but of principles, gates guarded not by soldiers but by discernment. This wasn't just poetic imagery. For the Stoics, your mind was the one place no external force could breach unless you lowered the drawbridge yourself. Think about how radical that is in our modern world of constant pings and pulls. Every notification, every demand, every opinion lobbed your way is like a siege on that citadel. The question isn't whether the world will test your walls, it's whether you've reinforced them. Consider how easily we surrender our mental real estate. That colleague who dumps last-minute work on your desk, you grant them access when you say yes against your better judgment, the endless scroll of bad news. You raise the portcullis when you consume it mindlessly. Even our own thoughts can be Trojan horses, self-doubt disguised as realism, procrastination masquerading as preparation. The Stoic solution isn't to hide from the world, but to build stronger gates. Marcus put it plainly, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Modern boundaries are the mortar of this ancient philosophy. Saying no to a draining commitment isn't rudeness, it's fortification. Turning off your phone for focused work isn't antisocial, it's strategic defense. Each intentional choice reinforces your inner walls, but here's the catch, citadels crumble from within first. What weakens yours? Maybe it's the guilt you feel when enforcing boundaries, or the fear of missing out that has you saying yes to everything. Perhaps it's the habit of comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. These are the cracks where chaos seeps in. Try this audit. For one day, track every instance where you let something undermine your peace, the unnecessary argument you engaged in, the task you took on to please others, the hour lost to distraction. Then ask, what principle was missing here? Was it self-respect, focus, the courage to disappoint? That's where your rebuilding begins, because the strongest citadels aren't built in a day. They're reinforced by countless small decisions to guard what matters. And when storms come, as they always do, you'll find yourself not cowering behind thin walls, but standing firm in unshakable clarity. The world will keep knocking. You get to decide who and what earns entry. Cato the Younger stood before Rome's Senate, his toga stained with ink from political enemies who tried to silence him by defacing his clothes. Instead of rage, he wore it like armor, declaring, I'm not ashamed of what's thrown at me, only of what I might throw back. That moment crystallizes why Stoic role matters, not as distant historical figures, but as living proof that integrity can outlast chaos. Fast forward 20 centuries, and we're drowning in a different kind of performance, curated Instagram reels, viral hot takes, influencers peddling half-baked wisdom between ads. The contrast couldn't be starker. Cato's ink stains were badges of resistance. Today's stains are filters wiped clean before posting. But here's the overlooked truth: Stoicism never demanded perfection. It demanded alignment. When Seneca fell short of his ideals, he documented his struggles openly. When Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, he wrote privately about his anger before choosing mercy. These weren't marble statues, they were flesh and blood people who turned daily stumbles into stepping stones. Compare that to modern influencer culture, where struggles are either hidden or exaggerated for engagement. The difference: one tradition built resilience through transparency, the other often sells the illusion of effortless mastery. This isn't about dismissing contemporary voices. It's about discernment. Who are you letting shape your inner dialogue? The philosopher king who journaled his doubts at war's edge, or the TikTok guru selling 3 hacks to never feel sad again? The test is simple. Does their wisdom hold up when life gets messy? Epictetus, born a slave, taught that adversity reveals teachers. A broken bone shows the skill of a surgeon. A crisis shows the mettle of mentors. So ask yourself, whose words steady you when the Wi-Fi cuts out, the diagnosis lands, or the dream job evaporates? Practical exercise. Carve out 15 minutes this week to study a Stoic exemplar's lowest moment. Not their triumphs, their failures. How did Zeno rebuild after losing everything in a shipwreck? How did Portia Cotto grieve her husband's death without surrendering to despair? There's gold in their grit. Then draft your own virtue map, 3 qualities you admire in them, and 1 small way to embody each this month. Maybe it's Seneca's habit of nightly reflection, or Musonius Rufus' willingness to defend principles despite ridicule. The goal isn't imitation, it's inspiration. You won't find your strength by trying to replicate Cotto's stubbornness or Marcus' solitude. But when you stand at your own crossroads, choosing between convenience and conviction, or between reactivity and resolve, their echoes might just whisper, "This is where the work begins." Not on pedestals, but in the messy, magnificent act of showing up as you are, while reaching for who you could become. Seneca once wrote a letter that could have been addressed to our modern obsession with likes and follows. He told his friend Lucilius, "You ask me to say what you should consider it particularly important to avoid. My answer is this: a mass audience." Those words cut straight to the heart of what the Stoics called contemptu fame, the healthy disregard for fame. Not because achievement is meaningless, but because outsourcing your self-worth to external validation is like building your home on quicksand. Picture this: 2,000 years ago, Roman elites scrambled for statues and public praise just as we chase viral moments today. The props have changed, laurel wreaths swapped for blue checkmarks, but the hunger remains identical. And Seneca saw the trap clearly. The more you crave applause, the more you enslave yourself to strangers' whims. Think about your last social media post. How long before you checked the likes? That reflexive reach for your phone reveals something profound. We've trained our brains to measure worth in digital breadcrumbs. A photo gets fewer hearts than usual, and suddenly we're questioning our creativity. A tweet goes viral, and we're addicted to the dopamine hit. The Stoic antidote isn't deleting your accounts unless you want to, but dismantling the mental wiring that equates visibility with value. When Seneca warned, "What difference does it make how much you have if what you have isn't enough for you?" he might as well have been talking about follower counts. No number ever satisfies because the hunger isn't for numbers, it's for validation we can only give ourselves. Here's the experiment that exposes this truth. Try posting something meaningful, a thought, a creation, a vulnerable truth, and then resist checking the metrics for 24 hours. Notice what arises: the itch to see who approved, the fear of silence, the irrational hope that this time the algorithm will anoint you. That discomfort is gold. It shows exactly where you've tied your confidence to external inputs. Musonius Rufus trained his students to eat simple meals in public, not for show, but to practice indifference to others' opinions. Your version, posting without refreshing, creating without counting, speaking your truth without waiting for echoes. The irony is this: the less you need applause, the more authentic your voice becomes. Marcus Aurelius ruled the known world, yet wrote, "It's ridiculous not to escape from your own vices, which is possible, while trying to escape the vices of others, which is impossible." Translation: you can't control who sees or celebrates your work, but you can stop letting their reactions dictate your peace. Modern creators who thrive long-term understand this. They create first for the craft, second for the crowd. The metrics become weather reports, not compasses. So here's your challenge. For one day, treat your next post like a stoic exercise. Hit share, then walk away. Sit with the discomfort of not knowing. Observe how much mental space was previously occupied by that tiny, tyrannical number. And when the urge to check strikes, ask Seneca's question: is this serving my growth or my need to be seen? The answer might just free you to create and live with quieter confidence and louder purpose. Marcus Aurelius faced a rebellion that could have shattered his empire, but instead of seeing traitors, he saw teachers. His journal records this radical shift. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Within every impediment lies an advantage waiting to be seized. This wasn't blind optimism, it was tactical alchemy. Consider the modern equivalent, a tech startup's collapse. Picture the founder, let's call her Sarah, whose AI app failed spectacularly after 3 grueling years. Investors bailed, the team dissolved, industry blogs declared her concept obsolete. Most would see only wreckage, but Sarah, steeped in Stoic principles, asked a different question: what did this failure reveal that success couldn't? Digging through the ashes, she noticed something startling. The very feature users rejected, an unconventional interface, had been passionately embraced by a tiny subset, educators working with neurodiverse students. That flaw became her compass. 6 months later, she pivoted to specialized learning tools, building on the code she'd supposedly wasted. Within 2 years, her company was acquired by a major edtech firm. The obstacle didn't just lead to a new path, it was the path. This mirrors the Stoic practice of peripateia, the art of turning setbacks into pivot points. Ancient builders reused fallen columns as foundations. Blacksmiths reforged broken swords into plowshares. The principle is universal. Disruption contains hidden blueprints. Your current roadblock, whether it's a rejected proposal, a strained relationship, or a financial squeeze, holds similar clues. The key lies in interrogating the obstacle itself. When a project stalls, is it revealing unrealistic timelines? When someone resists your ideas, might they be highlighting unclear communication? Try this reframe today. Identify one persistent hurdle, maybe a goal that feels out of reach or a conflict that won't resolve. Now dissect it with Stoic curiosity. What skills is this demanding I develop? What assumptions is it challenging? What narrower, brighter path might it be nudging me toward? A blocked career move could be directing you toward untapped strengths. A creative dry spell might signal the need for deeper research rather than more output. Even physical limitations, chronic pain or fatigue, can become unexpected guides toward sustainable rhythms. The founder's story holds a crucial nuance. She didn't pretend the failure didn't hurt. Stoicism never asks you to deny pain, only to mine it for meaning. Marcus wrote, "The blazing fire makes flames and brightness out of everything thrown into it." Your obstacles aren't exceptions to your journey, they're the raw material of it. So next time you hit resistance, hear the whisper of 2,000 years of wisdom. Don't push through, look through. the wall might be a doorway in disguise. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, left us a deceptively simple formula for wisdom. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we may listen twice as much as we speak. At first glance, it sounds like polite advice until you realize this wasn't about manners. It was about power. In an age where words flow endlessly through texts, tweets, and talking heads, we've forgotten what the Stoics knew. Speech isn't just communication, it's currency. Every unnecessary word spends a piece of your attention, your credibility, even your peace. Imagine your words as arrows in a quiver. Would you fire them randomly into the dark or save each one for a target worth hitting? Modern life tempts us to overshare not just online but in our daily interactions. We fill silences with chatter, process emotions by venting, and mistake frequency for connection. But here's what gets lost. The space between words is where real understanding grows. Think about the last time someone truly listened to you, not waiting for their turn to speak, but fully present. That rarity is what Zeno was protecting. Stoic silence isn't muteness. It's the art of letting thoughts marinate before giving them voice. When Seneca warned, speech is like medicine. The right dose cures, the wrong dose kills. He might as well have been describing our modern habit of using words as band-aids for discomfort. Try this experiment for 1 day. Track how often you speak to avoid awkwardness, fill space, or seek validation. The co-worker who dominates meetings. Notice the urge to interrupt just to be heard. The friend sharing vulnerable news. Observe the instinct to jump in with your own story instead of holding space. Even solitary moments like narrating frustrations aloud to yourself can be clues to where words have become crutches rather than tools. The Stoic remedy isn't suppression, it's selectivity. As Epictetus put it, if you can't improve the silence, don't break it. Here's where this becomes practical. Choose a conversation today where you'll practice active silence. Listen not to reply, but to absorb. Let pauses linger without rushing to fill them. You'll discover something profound. What people reveal when they aren't interrupted. What ideas form when you don't preempt them. And when you do speak, make it deliberate. Before sharing an opinion, ask, is this necessary? Is it kind? Does it serve the moment? You might find half your words were never needed, and the ones that remain carry unexpected weight. The ultimate test comes in conflict. When tensions rise, we often weaponize words, sharpening them to wound or piling them up to defend. But the Stoics proposed a radical alternative. Let the other person exhaust their words while you conserve yours. Like a judo master using an opponent's momentum, sometimes the strongest response is measured stillness, because silence isn't empty. It's the fertile ground where patience grows, where rash reactions wither, and where the truth eventually rises to meet you. So tonight, as the world buzzes with noise, ask yourself, what might I hear if I stopped trying to be heard? The answer could change how you speak and how you live. Your alarm blares at 6 a.m., the moment of truth. Do you slam the snooze button, dragging yesterday's exhaustion into today? Or do you seize those first conscious breaths like a Stoic stepping onto the battlefield of their own potential? This split-second choice sets the tone for everything that follows. The ancients didn't have smartphones buzzing with notifications, but they understood the power of morning rituals. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations at dawn, not as poetic exercises, but as mental armor. When you arise in the morning, he said, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That's the Stoic sunrise, awakening not just your body, but your purpose. Let's contrast 2 versions of today. Version 1, you groan, scroll through headlines that spike your cortisol, then rush into the day reacting to everyone else's agenda. Version 2, you rise, anchor yourself in gratitude, then deliberately choose how you'll engage with the world. the difference isn't time, it's intentionality. Take Lisa, a viewer who shared how swapping 7 minutes of snoozing for a Stoic ritual transformed her workdays. She starts by placing her hand on her chest, feeling her heartbeat, and whispering 3 things she's grateful for: simple, visceral, undeniable. The roof over her head, the friend who checked in yesterday, the fact her legs can carry her to the kitchen. Neuroscientists call this priming the positivity bias, but Lisa just calls it her daily lifeline. Now the reading, not scrolling reading, a single paragraph from Epictetus or Seneca, absorbed slowly like strong coffee. No highlighting, no sharing, just letting the words resonate. Imagine absorbing this before checking email. You are a little soul carrying around a corpse. Epictetus quipped, morbid, maybe, but also liberating. That traffic jam, your mortal coil will endure it. The rude comment, your soul gets to choose its response. This isn't about memorizing quotes, it's about marinating in perspective before the world starts shouting its demands. Here's your challenge: craft a 5-minute ritual. 1 minute of gratitude, name 3 concrete things, no repeats from yesterday. 2 minutes of intention, visualize 1 interaction where you'll practice patience or courage. 2 minutes of reading, keep a Stoic text by your bed like a fire extinguisher for existential emergencies. The magic isn't in the minutes, it's in the metacognition. You're not just starting your day, you're architecting it. And when that alarm sounds tomorrow, you won't just wake up, you'll rise. Picture this: the sun has set, your phone's glow is the last light in the room, and you're halfway through your 3rd episode of a show you're not even enjoying. Sound familiar? Now contrast that with Seneca's evening ritual, sitting by candlelight, reviewing his day with the same care a jeweler examines a precious stone. The Stoics didn't have Netflix, but they understood something we've forgotten. How you end your day shapes how you begin the next. Binge watching numbs the mind, reflection sharpens it. One habit leaves you passive, drifting into sleep with someone else's story in your head. The other puts you back in the director's chair of your own life. Seneca's nightly review wasn't about self-judgment, it was about calibration. He'd ask himself 3 questions that cut through the noise. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short of my principles? And most importantly, what lesson is hidden in this day's struggles? Notice what's missing here. There's no tally of productivity hacks, no obsession with optimizing every minute. Just a simple, profound focus on alignment. When was the last time you asked yourself anything deeper than, did I reply to all my emails? Let's make this practical. Tonight, before you reach for the remote or the scroll button, try this instead. Grab any notebook, the back of a receipt works, and answer Seneca's 3 questions in 3 sentences or less. What strengthened me today? Maybe it was the patience you showed your toddler's tantrum, or the 10 minutes you spent breathing deeply before a meeting. What weakened me? Not failures, but moments you handed your power away, like snapping at a barista when you were really frustrated with your boss. And the golden question: what did today try to teach me? Perhaps that rushed morning set a chaotic tone, or that saying yes to everything means doing nothing well. Here's why this beats binge watching every time. Streaming hands, you prefabricated emotions, laughter, tension, catharsis on someone else's schedule. Reflection, that's where you discover your own story's themes. That difficult coworker isn't just a villain in your workday drama. They're showing you where your boundaries need reinforcing. The project that stalled isn't a plot hole, it's a clue that your approach needs tweaking. Seneca called this nocturnal recollection, but you might call it the ultimate life hack, turning daily stumbles into stepping stones while the world sleeps. The magic lies in the consistency. Do this for 3 nights, and you'll start spotting patterns, like how exhaustion makes you sarcastic, or how unstructured Sundays leave you restless for Monday. Do it for 30 and you'll have something no algorithm can provide, a user manual for your own mind. Because here's the truth no productivity guru will tell you: life isn't about eliminating bad days. It's about learning their language so even your worst days whisper wisdom. Tonight, when the screens flicker their seductive invitations, remember, there's a more compelling story waiting to be reviewed. Yours, Musonius Rufus didn't just teach Stoicism. He lived it, often lecturing while chopping wood or digging soil. To him, physical vigor wasn't separate from philosophy. It was philosophy in motion. How can one be healthy in soul while neglecting the body? He challenged his students. Fast forward to today, where we've carved life into neat little boxes: 8 hours of sitting at screens, 30 minutes of scrolling in bed, maybe 20 rushed minutes at the gym if we're good. But here's what we've lost in that segregation: the ancient understanding that movement isn't just about burning calories, it's about igniting thought. Consider the irony of modern productivity culture. We optimize our workspaces with standing desks and ergonomic chairs, yet strip away the very ingredient that made history's greatest thinkers thrive: embodied cognition. Aristotle walked the Lyceum's shaded paths while teaching, giving us the word peripatetic. Nietzsche composed his most brilliant aphorisms during 8-hour mountain hikes. Even Darwin's thinking path, a gravel loop in his garden, was where he wrestled with evolution's toughest questions. Their genius wasn't despite the movement, it was fueled by it. Science now confirms what these minds intuited. Walking increases creative output by 60%, while sitting shrinks our hippocampus, the brain's memory center. So here's your Stoic fitness challenge: not another grueling workout regimen, but a walk and think habit. No headphones, no podcasts, just you, your breath, and the open road. Start small, 10 minutes after lunch, tracing the same route daily like Marcus Aurelius pacing his palace corridors. Notice how your thoughts begin to mirror your footsteps, rhythmic, deliberate, moving forward. That problem that seemed unsolvable at your desk, the rhythm of walking creates neural crosstalk between brain regions, often unlocking solutions in the spaces between strides. But this isn't just about problem solving. There's a deeper alchemy at work. When Musonius spoke of exercising the soul through bodily labor, he hinted at a profound truth: physical strain teaches mental resilience. The burn in your calves climbing a hill mirrors the grit needed to push through creative blocks. The discipline of stepping out in bad weather trains the same muscle that refuses to quit when life gets stormy. Even the act of turning around at your halfway point becomes a miniature lesson in recognizing limits while testing them. Tonight, as dusk paints the sky, leave your phone behind and walk with a single question: what's one thing I've been avoiding thinking about? Don't force answers, just let the cadence of your steps loosen what's stuck. You might find, as Nietzsche did, that all truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. Not in fluorescent lit gyms or on punishing treadmills, but in the simple, sacred act of putting one foot in front of the other, mind and body finally reunited in their oldest rhythm. Seneca once observed that life feels short not because it is, but because we waste so much of it, a truth that cuts deeper in our age of infinite scroll. Every time you unlock your phone without intention, you're not just killing minutes, you're surrendering fragments of a finite existence to algorithms designed to hijack your attention. The average person spends over 4 hours daily on their device. That's 60 full days a year lost to what the Stoics would call prokopton, aimless wandering of the mind. But here's the liberating twist: you don't need more willpower to reclaim those hours. You need a strategy straight from Seneca's playbook, digital minimalism, as a form of philosophical triage. Start with an app audit, but not the superficial kind where you glance at screen time stats and sigh. This is a Stoic audit. Open your phone's settings and scrutinize each app like Marcus Aurelius evaluating a senator's proposal. Does this serve my virtue or my vanity? Social platforms promising connection but delivering comparison. News apps feeding anxiety under the guise of awareness. Even seemingly benign tools, whether widgets you check obsessively, games you play mindlessly, accumulate into what Seneca called a life crowded with nothings. The goal isn't austerity, it's alignment. Keep what genuinely enriches the meditation timer, the language tutor, the messaging app for your inner circle, and question everything else. Now the challenge: delete one distracting app for 7 days, not deactivate, delete. This isn't about detox, it's about rediscovering what Seneca meant when he wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." That week without Instagram might reveal how often you reached for it to numb boredom rather than savor stillness. The absence of Twitter could expose how much mental space was occupied by strangers' hot takes. Pay attention to what flourishes in the vacancy. Maybe it's reading actual books again, or having uninterrupted dinners where you taste each bite. Here's the deeper lesson hiding in this experiment. Distraction isn't just stealing your time, it's eroding your capacity for odium, the Stoic art of purposeful leisure. Ancient Romans didn't have smartphones, but they faced their own version of empty busyness: endless baths, gladiator spectacles, gossip-filled forums. Seneca warned his friend Lucilius about such occupied idleness, a filling hours without filling the soul. Your phone is the modern equivalent. That 20-minute wait at the DMV could be 20 minutes of journaling or observing the world around you if you don't default to scrolling. The final test comes when the week ends. Reinstalling the app is easy, but first ask, did its absence create space for something better? If the answer's yes, you've stumbled upon a truth Seneca knew well: we don't need more time. We need fewer distractions, because the real measure of a life isn't how much you've consumed, but how much you've lived with your eyes wide open. Epictetus offered a razor-sharp test for true friendship. Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. That simple image cuts through the noise of modern connections. Think about your last 10 interactions. How many left you intellectually sharper, emotionally steadier? Morally clearer, the Stoics drew a hard line between virtuous bonds and transactional networks. One forges character through friction and trust, the other trades favors like currency. Your colleague who debates ideas passionately but respects boundaries, that's iron sharpening iron. The acquaintance who only reaches out when they need something. That's commerce disguised as connection. Consider 2 dinner parties. At the first, conversations flutter between gossip and complaints: who got promoted unfairly, which political party is ruining everything, why the world owes them more. You leave feeling drained, your mind cluttered with other people's grievances. At the second, someone shares how they navigated an ethical dilemma at work. Another admits they're struggling with patience as a parent and asks for counsel. Disagreements arise but remain respectful, like sparring partners pulling punches to strengthen each other. That's Stoic friendship in action, not always comfortable but always constructive. The litmus test isn't frequency or familiarity, but elevation. Marcus Aurelius surrounded himself with mentors who challenged him, even as emperor. When his rhetoric teacher Fronto showered him with praise, young Marcus replied, "I'd rather you criticize my errors, that's how I improve." Contrast that with today's like-for-like Instagram alliances or LinkedIn connections collected like trading cards. The Stoic question pierces through. Who in your life makes you want to be better just by their presence? Not who flatters you, entertains you, or networks with you, but who reflects your highest potential back to you, even when it stings. Practical exercise: map your inner circle using Epictetus Standard. Divide a page into 2 columns. Label one iron, the other chaff. List people you engage with regularly, which sharpen your discipline through their example, who models integrity even when it costs them. Those belong in the iron column. The chaff side: those who drain energy without reciprocity, or whose values crumble under pressure. This isn't about cutting people out, it's about consciously directing your most precious resource, attention. Invest it where it fortifies rather than frays. The deepest friendships often thrive in quiet consistency. Seneca wrote letters to Lucilius not daily, but with depth, each one a masterclass in virtue. Today, that might translate to a monthly hike with a friend who asks, "What's one principle you're struggling to live by?" instead of swapping complaints about bosses. Or a text thread where you share daily Stoic challenges rather than viral memes. True iron sharpening bonds need no performative intensity, just mutual commitment to growth. So tonight, as you scroll through contacts, ask not who's nearby, but who helps you meet your highest self. Those are the keepers. Seneca called anger temporary madness, a fire that burns the hand of the one who holds it. Picture this: you're on hold with customer service for 45 minutes, only to be transferred to the wrong department. Your pulse quickens, your jaw clenches, and suddenly you're drafting a scathing email that starts with "to whom it may concern" and ends with your dignity in shreds. We've all been there, but here's what Seneca knew that most of us forget in the heat of the moment. Anger isn't a force to be unleashed, it's a signal to be decoded. That surge of adrenaline isn't your enemy, it's your body's misguided attempt to protect you. The key lies in creating space between trigger and reaction, what Stoics called the first movement of emotion. Take that customer service scenario. Instead of firing off that email, try Seneca's cooling off tactic: delay, not suppression, strategic pause. Step away for exactly 24 hours. Why? Because anger thrives on immediacy. It convinces you that responding now is urgent, when in reality, almost nothing requires an inflamed reply. After a night's sleep, you'll likely realize the situation doesn't demand nuclear options, just clear, firm communication. If the issue still matters tomorrow, address it with precision rather than passion. For moments when walking away isn't enough, Seneca prescribed a brilliant exercise: write but don't send. Pour every fiery thought onto paper, the caps lock, the exclamation points, the creative insults. Then seal it in an envelope or save it as a draft. This isn't just venting, it's alchemy. By externalizing the emotion, you separate it from your identity. The rage isn't you, it's a passing storm you're observing. Often, rereading those words days later reveals their absurdity. One viewer shared how this practice saved her career after drafting but never sending a blistering resignation letter. She realized her frustration was with a single project, not the entire company. Now the reckoning: what has anger cost you recently? Not just in blown opportunities or burned bridges, but in stolen peace. That argument you won but can't stop replaying at 3 a.m. The workout you skipped because simmering resentment drained your energy. Even subtler tools like the way clenched shoulders shorten your breath, or how a sour mood tints an entire day. Anger's price isn't just emotional, it's physiological. Research shows just 5 minutes of rage suppresses your immune system for 6 hours. The Stoics framed it as a math problem. Is this person's behavior worth sacrificing your health? Your clarity, your time. Here's the ultimate reframe. When anger flares, ask Seneca's question: what truth is this emotion trying to reveal? Often, it's a boundary being crossed, a value being ignored, or a fear being triggered. The customer service nightmare. Underneath the fury might lie a deeper frustration, feeling powerless in systems that treat people as ticket numbers. Address that root cause, and anger transforms from enemy to ally. Because the goal isn't to never feel anger, it's to never let anger make you its puppet. As Seneca wrote, no tree becomes rooted and sturdy unless many winds blow against it. Each time you pause instead of erupt, you're not avoiding conflict, you're growing roots no storm can topple. Musonius Rufus dropped a bombshell 2,000 years ago that still rattles our consumer-driven world. Wealth isn't having much, it's needing little. At first glance, it sounds like monkish austerity, but dig deeper, and you'll find the ultimate antidote to financial anxiety hiding in plain sight. Consider your last online shopping spree. How much of it was driven by genuine need versus the gnawing fear of not having enough? That's the poverty of fear, a state where our bank accounts might be full, but our minds feel perpetually bankrupt. Modern marketing thrives on manufactured lack. Limited time offers scream scarcity. Social media flaunts lifestyles just out of reach. Retirement calculators project apocalyptic scenarios unless you hoard millions. Yet the Stoics recognized a radical truth. The most dangerous poverty isn't in our wallets, it's in our perception. When Musonius taught that the person who is satisfied with least is richest, he wasn't glorifying destitution. He was revealing how our endless wanting creates its own kind of starvation. Take the just-in-case purchases cluttering your home, that expensive juicer gathering dust. Bought during a health scare, the premium gym membership you never use, signed up after a doctor's warning. Even subscriptions we forget to cancel often trace back to fear of missing out, falling behind, or being unprepared. These aren't investments, they're anxiety receipts. The average household spends over $2,000 annually on unused items, not because we need them, but because we're terrified of what might happen if we don't have them. Here's your challenge: audit one fear-based purchase this week. Maybe it's the extra insurance policy you were upsold after a news scare, or the bulk groceries rotting in your pantry because supply chains are unstable. Hold it in your hands and ask, does this object make me feel secure, or remind me I'm not? The answer might surprise you. The Stoic alternative isn't reckless minimalism, it's strategic sufficiency. Like a traveler packing only what they can carry, it's about distinguishing between essentials and emotional baggage. When Musonius lived in exile on a barren island, he wrote, "I lack nothing but bread and water. Yet even these are gifts." That's not resignation, it's liberation, because the person who needs little can never be impoverished, only inconvenienced. And in that space between need and want lies a wealth no market crash can touch. Marcus Aurelius never boarded a plane, but his advice for turbulent voyages reads like a modern travel guide. The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, ready for the unforeseen and prepared to meet it. Imagine him in today's airport chaos, flight delays scrolling across screens, luggage lost in transit, a stranger reclining their seat into your knees. The marble halls of Rome may feel worlds apart from cramped economy cabins, but the Stoic challenge remains identical. Will you let external chaos dictate internal calm? Ancient travelers faced storms at sea, bandits on roads, and uncertain welcomes in foreign ports. Their modern equivalents, cancelled connections, language barriers, and Airbnb listings that looked better online. The difference isn't the obstacles, it's our expectation of smooth sailing. Seneca wrote letters about weathering shipwrecks with philosophy intact. Today we rage at 30-minute tarmac holds. But here's the secret hidden in every disrupted itinerary. Travel doesn't just take you places, it reveals you to yourself. That delayed flight isn't just an inconvenience, it's a pop quiz in patience. The wrong restaurant order isn't merely frustrating, it's a chance to practice grace under hunger. Turn your next journey into a Stoic training ground with 3 intentional practices. First, pack the provision of acceptance, not extra socks, but mental readiness. Research shows anticipating disruptions reduces stress more than obsessive planning. While others frantically refresh flight statuses, you'll channel Epictetus. Happiness begins with understanding what's within our control. Second, reframe irritations as immersion exercises. That noisy hotel becomes a lesson in focus, the confusing metro map a puzzle to solve with curiosity rather than frustration. Third, document micro-victories, not just Instagram sunsets, but private moments of resilience. Did you navigate a foreign pharmacy without losing composure? That's a win Aristotle would applaud. The ultimate test comes when plans crumble entirely. Picture this: your dream safari gets cancelled due to political unrest. The Stoic response: first, distinguish facts from stories. Fact: the trip is off. Story: this always happens to me. Next, seek the hidden pivot. Could this reroute you to an unexpected gem, like Musonius finding philosophy while exiled to a barren island? Finally, practice retrospective gratitude. Years later, you'll likely cherish the unplanned detour more than the original itinerary. After all, no one reminisces about flawless vacations. We bond over monsoon-stranded train rides and comically bad hostel meals. So as you zip your suitcase next time, pack this question. What if every inconvenience is the journey's real destination? Not the pristine beaches or historic landmarks, but the unscripted moments that sand down your rough edges. Because the trips that transform us aren't the ones where everything goes right, they're the ones where we learn to bend without breaking. And when turbulence hits, literal or metaphorical, you'll hear Marcus whispering from 2,000 years ago. The obstacle is not the barrier, but the path. Your passport stamps will fade, but the resilience you collect, that's a souvenir no customs can confiscate. Seneca once wrote a letter that could have been addressed to our overflowing closets and crammed Amazon carts. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. That single sentence dismantles the entire foundation of modern consumerism. Picture your closet right now. Not just the clothes, but the gadgets, the unused gym equipment, the kitchen tools still in their packaging. Each item whispers promises. This will make you more organized, more attractive, more productive. But here's the uncomfortable truth Seneca saw 2,000 years ago. The more we accumulate, the more those possessions accumulate us. Take the classic capsule wardrobe experiment, owning just 30 versatile pieces for 3 months. Those who try it often report an unexpected side effect, not deprivation, but liberation. The mental energy previously spent deciding what to wear or shopping for trends suddenly becomes available for creative work, deeper conversations, or simple presence. This isn't about minimalism as an aesthetic. It's about recognizing how every unnecessary possession demands a piece of your attention, that juicer collecting dust. It's not just taking up cabinet space, it's renting mental real estate every time you glance at it and feel a pang of guilt. The Stoic antidote to this clutter isn't decluttering, it's redefining enough. Seneca practiced what he called voluntary poverty, regular periods, living with only essentials to recalibrate his desires. For us, that might mean a buy-nothing month or simply pausing before every purchase to ask, will this expand my life or just my inventory? A viewer named David shared how this practice saved him over $6,000 in a year, not through austerity, but by catching the subconscious belief that buying hiking gear would make him an outdoorsman when what he actually needed was to step outside. Now, the visceral exercise: walk through your home and identify 3 objects you haven't used in a year. Hold each one and feel its weight. not just physical but psychological. That bread machine seemed like a health investment, but how many hours did you spend researching it, comparing models, then avoiding it when homemade loaves proved messy? The professional camera gear promised creative fulfillment, yet sits unused because your phone suffices for daily shots. Even that stack of unread books purchased to signal intellect rather than satisfy curiosity becomes a silent indictment of performative consumption. Here's where Seneca's wisdom cuts deepest. Desire isn't the problem, unexamined desire is. When we crave things reflexively, because ads told us to, because neighbors have them, because we're bored, we hand over our sovereignty. But when we pause to distinguish between want and need, between aspiration and imitation, something shifts. The same hands that once reached for credit cards start reaching for journals, for tools, for the tangible ingredients of a self-authored life. Because true wealth was never about possession, it's about possession of yourself. And no sale, no trend, no algorithm can compete with that. Marcus Aurelius ruled the world's most powerful empire, yet his private journals reveal a leader obsessed not with dominance but duty. While modern executives chase corner offices and viral LinkedIn posts, the philosopher king measured his worth by a radically different standard. Have I acted for the common good? This is Stoic leadership distilled, not the loudest voice in the room, but the most attentive, not the one taking credit, but the one creating conditions for others to shine. Contrast this with today's ego-driven bosses who mistake authority for superiority, whose meetings feel more like performances than collaborations. You've met this type, the manager who interrupts to add value, who hoards information as power, whose feedback leaves team members feeling smaller rather than sharper. The cost: a 2023 Gallup study found teams with such leaders show 40% lower productivity and 65% higher turnover. Ego, it turns out, is terrible for business. Now picture leading your next team meeting like Marcus would, not from the head of the table, but from the role of a servant. Start by redistributing power in subtle ways. Pass the agenda setting to junior members, rotating the responsibility weekly. When discussions stall, resist the urge to solve everything. Instead, ask, what's one perspective we haven't considered yet? This simple shift transforms you from problem solver to wisdom curator. Notice what happens when someone shares an imperfect idea rather than critiquing it. Amplify their courage. Tell us more about how you'd approach this. That's not soft leadership, it's strategic humility. Research from the MIT Human Dynamics Lab shows psychological safety, the feeling that risks won't be punished, is the single greatest predictor of high-performing teams. The Stoic litmus test comes in those quiet moments after decisions are made. Ask yourself, who truly benefited from my influence today? Not who praised you, not who advanced your pet project, but whose growth you nourished. A tech CEO recently shared how this question revolutionized her leadership. She began ending one-on-ones by asking reports, "What's one way I could better support you?" The answers stunned her, not requests for promotions or perks, but pleas for mentorship, for clearer boundaries between urgent and important work, even for permission to occasionally fail without fear. These weren't employees seeking less accountability. They were hungry for the space to practice their own Stoic resilience. Here's where Stoicism defies modern leadership myths. Servant leadership isn't about being liked, it's about being necessary. When a junior designer at a major agency proposed a risky rebrand, his Stoic manager didn't rubber stamp the idea. Instead, he asked, "What's the worst that could happen if we try this, and how would we recover?" That question did more than refine the pitch, it taught strategic risk assessment. Later, when the campaign succeeded, the manager insisted the designer present it to the board alone. That's Marcus' legacy in action. leaders who measure their worth not by how high they climb, but by how many they lift as they rise. The ultimate test comes during crises. Ego-driven bosses default to command and control, mistaking panic for decisiveness. Stoic leaders, they channel Marcus during Rome's plague, acknowledging the storm while steadying the ship. When a cybersecurity firm's systems were hacked, its CEO gathered the team not with blame, but with a question: what does this moment require of us? The breach became a masterclass in collective problem-solving, with interns and executives collaborating as equals. 6 months later, not only had they recovered, they'd redesigned their entire security protocol, turning vulnerability into innovation. That's the paradox of Stoic leadership. By serving first, you become indispensable, not because you have all the answers, but because you create the conditions for answers to emerge. So tomorrow, as you walk into your workplace, whether it's a corporate suite or a virtual huddle, carry this question like Marcus carried his journal. Is my leadership today leaving others more capable or just more compliant? The difference defines not just your effectiveness, but your legacy, because the finest leaders aren't remembered for their titles or triumphs, but for the strength they helped others discover in themselves. Fear setting isn't about pessimism, it's about power. Picture this: you're about to pitch a bold idea to your boss, one that could reshape your career. Your pulse races, your palms sweat, and your mind floods with visions of rejection, ridicule, even getting fired. But what if you didn't just dread those scenarios? What if you dissected them? That's the brutal beauty of fear setting, a Stoic exercise Tim Ferriss modernized from ancient wisdom. Instead of avoiding your worst-case scenarios, you shine a light on them, not to paralyze yourself, but to disarm their grip. Start by grabbing paper and dividing it into 3 columns. In the first, detail your fear with surgical precision. Not just "I'll embarrass myself," but "I'll stumble over my words, my slides will fail, and colleagues will dismiss me as unprepared." This isn't catastrophizing, it's clarity. The second column asks, how could I prevent this? Maybe it's rehearsing in front of a trusted friend, backing up your presentation on multiple devices, or anticipating tough questions. Suddenly, the monster under the bed has a blueprint for how to lock it away. The third column is where Stoic resilience kicks in. If the worst happens, how could I rebuild? Maybe a botched pitch means refining your idea with feedback, or discovering this isn't the right audience. History's greatest innovations, from penicillin to post-it notes, emerged from failures redirected. The exercise's magic lies in its inversion. By staring down your fears, you often realize their consequences are survivable, even instructive. Now, apply this to a decision you've been avoiding. That side hustle you're too scared to launch. Fear setting forces you to confront the actual cost of trying, maybe lost sleep or savings, versus the hidden cost of not trying, regret. A viewer once shared how this exercise transformed her career paralysis. She feared quitting her stable job to freelance would leave her bankrupt. But when she mapped it out, the worst-case scenario, 6 months of frugal living while rebuilding, felt less terrifying than staying in a soul-crushing role for years. Here's the twist: fear setting often reveals that inaction carries its own risks. The Stoics called this Premeditatio Malorum, premeditation of evils, not to dwell on them, but to drain their power. By quantifying your fear, you reclaim agency. That looming decision, it's not a cliff edge, it's a crossroads with visible paths, each with its own terrain. And when you realize you can navigate even the rockiest one, fear stops being a stop sign and becomes just another landmark on the map. Marcus Aurelius ended his days not with scrolling or snacking, but by lighting an oil lamp and reviewing his actions like an impartial judge, a practice he called Nocturnal Recollection. 2,000 years later, science confirms what the Stoics intuited. How you spend your last waking hour shapes the quality of your sleep, your dreams, and ultimately your next day. Picture the contrast: ancient Rome, quiet courtyards, candlelit journaling, light meals digested before dusk. Modern life, screens blaring blue light, late-night doom-scrolling, midnight snacks that churn in your gut like a washing machine. The result, a global insomnia epidemic where 1 in 3 adults struggles to sleep, not because we've forgotten how to rest, but because we've unlearned how to prepare. Consider the pre-sleep sabotage we barely notice. That quick check of emails that spirals into an hour of problem solving. The crime drama that leaves your nervous system too wired to unwind. Even seemingly harmless habits like reading news alerts in bed train your brain to associate the mattress with anxiety rather than rest. Studies show exposure to blue light from devices suppresses melatonin production for up to 3 hours, while late-night eating disrupts your circadian rhythm by forcing digestion when your body expects dormancy. The Stoics avoided these pitfalls through deliberate design. Seneca wrote letters by flickering lamplight, not to romanticize the past, but because flame's natural rhythm mirrored the slowing of his own mind. Musonius Rufus insisted on finishing meals by sunset, recognizing that a body busy processing food can't fully surrender to sleep. Here's where modern science and ancient wisdom converge. Research from Harvard's Sleep Lab reveals a 90-minute wind-down window where your brain transitions from alertness to rest. The Stoics didn't have neurotransmitters, but they mastered this transition through ritual. Imagine replacing your phone's glow with the soft light of a salt lamp, trading Netflix's artificial cliffhangers for a few pages of philosophy or poetry words meant not to excite but to deepen reflection. One corporate lawyer shared how swapping her bedtime scrolling for Seneca's letters cured her chronic insomnia. His words don't just calm me, they recalibrate my perspective. By the time I reach his advice on letting go of trivial worries, my own shrink to their proper size. The ultimate test comes when you identify your personal sleep saboteur. Is it the lure of just one more episode, or the siren call of the fridge after 9 p.m.? Maybe it's the unfinished to-do list that hijacks your pillow time. Try this Stoic audit for 3 nights, jot down your final activity before sleep, and rate your rest quality. Patterns will emerge. Perhaps your deepest sleep follows nights when you sketched in a journal, while fragmented rest trails late-night political debates. The goal isn't perfection, but awareness. As Epictetus taught, progress isn't achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. Tonight, as dusk falls, ask yourself this question as you reach for your usual routine. Is this serving my rest or robbing it? The answer might lead you to blow out the digital candle of your screen and rediscover the ancient art of truly closing the day, not with exhaustion, but with intention. Because the finest sleep isn't stumbled into, it's prepared for, like a philosopher prepares for wisdom, one deliberate breath at a time. Marcus Aurelius never chased trending hashtags or viral fame, yet 2,000 years later, his words still echo in classrooms, boardrooms, and quiet bedrooms where people seek wisdom. That's the power of legacy thinking, the practice of measuring your days not by fleeting applause but by enduring impact. Picture 2 tombstones. One reads, "Here lies someone who went viral in 2023. The other, "Here lies someone who taught others how to live." Which epitaph would you rather claim? That's the question at the heart of Stoic legacy. Not what temporary spotlight you captured, but what timeless lessons you embedded in the world. Modern culture confuses visibility with significance. We scroll past influencers who dominate algorithms for 15 minutes, then vanish without a trace. Meanwhile, the quiet neighbor who tutors kids after work, or the colleague who mentors newcomers without fanfare. These are the ones who ripple through generations. The Stoics called this arid excellence of character that outlasts marble statues. When Marcus wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be." Be one, he wasn't crafting a tweet for likes, he was etching a principle into eternity. Consider two approaches to a work project. The first, racing to finish first, chasing praise, then moving on once the accolades fade. The second, crafting something so thoughtful it becomes a reference point for others, a template, a standard, a spark that ignites better work in your team long after you've moved on. Both require effort, but only one plants seeds that grow beyond your tenure. A teacher doesn't measure success by the applause at a lecture's end, but by the students who carry those lessons into their own classrooms decades later. That's legacy thinking in action. Here's the litmus test for your daily choices. Will this matter in 10 years? Not in terms of bank balances or promotions, but in human impact. That difficult conversation you're avoiding with a struggling friend, having it with kindness, could alter their life's trajectory. The extra hour spent refining a proposal might set a new benchmark for your entire department. Even small acts, patience with a cashier, returning a lost item, refusing to gossip. These are the invisible bricks that build a legacy no algorithm can erase. Legacy isn't about scale, it's about substance. Emily Dickinson wrote nearly 2,000 poems in near total obscurity. Van Gogh sold one painting in his lifetime. Their work wasn't validated by contemporaries but by centuries. Contrast that with today's disposable fame, TikTok stars who fade faster than their trending sounds. The Stoic alternative: live as if you're being remembered, not as if you're being watched. Your challenge: write 2 letters. The first is from your future self at 80, reflecting on what made your life meaningful. The second is from someone you've influenced, describing how you changed their path. Seal them, read them in a month, notice where they diverge from your current priorities. That's your compass realigning toward legacy. Because when the scrolls of history are written, they won't record your follower count. They'll preserve the echoes of how you made others feel, what you inspired them to become, and the wisdom you planted that still bears fruit long after you're gone. We've traveled far together, from the archer's disciplined aim to the emperor's cosmic perspective, from premeditating storms to loving fate itself. Now, as we stand at the journey's end, let's gather the most potent tools you'll carry forward. First, the dichotomy of control, that razor-sharp distinction between what's yours to command and what isn't. It's not about surrendering to chaos, but about directing your energy with surgical precision. Think of it as mental triage, saving your strength for battles you can actually win. Next, Amor Fati, the radical embrace of all life hands you. Not passive resignation, but an active alchemy that transforms obstacles into fuel. And finally, Memento Mori, not a morbid fixation, but a clarion call to live with urgency and depth. These aren't just concepts, they're daily practices etched in the grit of real lives. Consider how these principles intersect. The dichotomy of control helps you navigate traffic jams without rage. Amor Fati turns a missed promotion into a redirection. Memento Mori infuses your child's bedtime story with presence no smartphone notification can shatter. Together, they form an unshakable foundation, not because they eliminate life's turbulence, but because they teach you to dance within it. A viewer once shared how combining these tools helped her through a layoff. She focused on what she could control, updating her skills, embraced the setback as a chance to pivot, launching a consultancy, and used mortality awareness to prioritize meaningful work over prestige. Epictetus, the former slave who became history's most influential Stoic teacher, left us with a challenge that cuts through all noise. First say what you'd be, then do what you must. That's the essence of ruling your world, not in some distant future when conditions are perfect, but here now, amid the mess and magnificence of ordinary days. Your throne isn't a fancy title or a corner office. It's the space between stimulus and response where your choice is live. So here's your final assignment, simple but not easy. Pick one practice today, just one. Maybe it's pausing before reacting to a provocation, or journaling tonight about what death can teach you about life. Perhaps it's catching yourself when you blame external forces and asking, where's my agency here? Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Mastery begins in the micro moments, the deep breath before reply, the gratitude whispered over morning coffee, the refusal to let someone else's mood dictate yours. The Stoics weren't perfect, they were persistent. They fell, reflected, and rose stronger. Now the torch passes to you, not to mimic them, but to outdo them where it matters most in the living of your own extraordinary, imperfect, fleeting life. The hourglass is flowing. What will you do with this grain